Hey guys, I'm here with a Cursed Realm guide. Now this round of the Cursed Realm is actually super interesting because a lot of things happened that made it so that you can swap around a lot of heroes in different teams to make your teams better and improve overall. And also this is probably the Cursed Realm round that I've used the most retries on, just because I wanted to test out a lot of different comps. I'll show you guys my best attempt, and then I'll show you guys some different variations that I believe are better with higher RNG. So for my different formations, if we just initially look at the best hit that I had here, I'll go over the teams one by one. So for the first team here, this is, for me, I Merc and Awakened Baden every week for the Cursed Realm, because he is always Team 1 relevant, or at least relevant in Cursed Realm. So this is the Baden team, right? And this is the one team that's pretty stable, and there's nothing much to talk about. It's just the Baden team, right? So this is one of the teams that are stable, and it can hit up to, I think I've hit 7.8 billion with my investments, but obviously I was able to merc a Giga Baden for this round, so probably a bit lower if you have a more realistic Baden merc or a Baden yourself. Now we get into the nitty gritty, so to speak, because for formation 2, this is the Belinda formation. Now for this Cursed Realm round, the Cain round, this Regicide, Blade of Regicide debuff is very significant to making your teams work, and that is why for your Belinda team, it is very important that your Belinda does not get the Regicide debuff. Now, the Regicide debuffs comes in after 10 seconds of battle, so at 120, and it's a little sword icon, if I can grab it here. As you can see here, you can barely make it out, but right now you can see that Yennefer has the Regicide debuff, which allows Belinda to completely pop off. As you can see, she is no longer held back by this debuff. And then she basically rams the boss until it kills you out. And it's pretty heavy RNG. For me, to allow Belinda to get the Regicide debuff, I had to try a lot of things, because normally you would use Mishka here, but for whatever reason, and also my pet is wrong, but I had to try out a lot of different things to make sure that Yennefer got the debuff, and that might be due to my overinvestment in Belinda and my underinvestment in Yennefer, right? But this was my best hit, right? So this is the best team comp that I had. However, I have hit harder with this team, which I'll show you guys later on. Because an interesting thing is that you can use Scarlet in this team to guarantee that Scarlet takes the Regicide debuff, and that allows you to use different heroes than Yennefer and hit a higher damage cap. But I'll go back to that later on. Now for this team, this is the Author's Taylene team. Now I'm actually building out Taylene. As you can see, she's now ascended with 20 signature items and engraving as well. But I still don't have Authors. So a replacement that I found was with Thiel, who actually works out decently if you don't have Authors. But another thing you can do in this team is you can use Eins, which will do about 1 billion damage as well. But this did a bit more than Eins for me. Now for my fourth team here, this is the Raku Wilder team, and this is where I use Mishka, because for me Mishka was better RNG than Soros. However, you can definitely just use Soros here instead, and that allows you to use Mishka instead of Lorsen in this round, if that works for you with the Regicide debuff, which it didn't for me. But yeah, everything else is pretty standard here. It's a fairly high RNG team. Sometimes it just flops, but you can get like 3 billion damage out of this team every now and then. For the fifth team, this is where I made some heavy improvements upon this team later on. So this team is not actually the best variation that I was able to use, but it was still able to do just about 1 billion damage, right? As you can see here, the Seal doing almost 700 million damage, and then combined with the rest of the heroes to a decent result. And then for the last team, this is the pretty standard team, I would say. This has been standard for a while. However, with the release of Rem can take Scarlet's spot in this team, and then Scarlet can be used here, as I spoke of earlier, to take the Regicide debuff away from Belinda, allowing Belinda to do more damage. So if you have a very well invested Rem, you can use her in this round, which I will show you guys now actually, because this was my best hit, right? But that's pretty much due to RNG, because I have some better teams that just weren't able to do it. So let's see if we can find a good round. So as you can see, the best hit was 22 million, and here we have a 21 million. Now initially it's the same Baden team, but here is where the switch up happens, because now I'm using Mishka here along with Scarlet, right? And this is actually a bad example because I couldn't get the RNG for Belinda. But if we can find a good Belinda hit here, for example, right? Well, here I use Lawson, but here I use the Scarlet Belinda composition, allowing Scarlet to take the Regicide debuff and allowing Belinda to do almost 7 billion damage compared to before. The first team is obviously the same. The third team I made improvements upon, because I think instead of Vethil here, actually what you can use is Anasta if you have, and Tandra if you have her built out significantly, and that can do upwards of 2 billion damage if you don't have Authors again, of course. And then I slotted Mishka back into this formation, and well, it was pretty meh. And then this is where I actually I threw Vethil back into here, because I found out that by popping Vethil in here, I was able to improve this team composition a lot, and this team composition I've seen do 1.9 billion damage. So this is by far the best round 5 that I could build with my heroes, and as you can see, it uses the legendary Brutus. And then for the last team comp, this is with my rem. Now as you can see, my rem is only 203 30 engraving, however, and that's not good enough for her to outperform Scarlet in this round, but it's pretty close. And putting Scarlet into this round, and when you get the right RNG, it's actually more damage. So if you have a build out rem, definitely replace Scarlet here and throw Scarlet into this team. So that's pretty much it for my teams. Now if I had more retries, I would probably just run this back until I get better Baden RNG, and better this RNG, and better this RNG, especially because I believe Saurus is actually better here for the overall cap on this team. If we look at the most recent battle I used, this would actually just be my best teams if I can get the right RNG right. So as you can see here, it did 2 billion damage, and this Rako team popped off a little harder, and then obviously this team, look at this, right? This is unheard of. Look at the amount of damage. It's doing what, 1, 2, almost 2.4 billion damage with these terrible heroes, or not terrible heroes, but with a legendary Brutus, right, who isn't invested in altogether. So if I could get the right RNG with this exact team composition, I believe I would be able to shoot up a bunch more ranks. However, as you can see, the refresh attempts are now costing 300s, and the amount of rank I could gain, maybe I could shoot up, like maybe I could hit 29 or something, but for the mats here, it's not worth 300 diamonds in my mind, because it's a heavy RNG fest, so it's not even guaranteed, and I already spent so many diamonds on retries. I usually don't spend diamonds on retries at all, because I wouldn't advise that as a free-to-play player, because diamonds are so scarce, but I did it this time, and that's mainly because I have a lot of diamonds currently. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention is that if you have the new Celestial hero built, or if you pop her trial, you can improve your Cursed Realm damage a lot by throwing her into the last team. Well, obviously we can't view that, but actually I'll just swap over to the Cursed Friends Discord guide now to show you guys what you can do if you have her build out, the new Celestial hero. Alright, so this is pretty zoomed out, so let's just zoom it a bit again. So this is the shout out to the Cursed Friends Discord server. This is the best Cursed Realm guide, and it releases up, it releases before the reset basically. So if you guys, usually I hold my attacks until this guide is out. This time I didn't, and then once this guide came out, I was able to improve my teams a bit. So it has all the information you could ever want. And significantly enough, it has this formation merc priority, which tells you which hero to merc for this round. And for me, obviously, it's Awakened Baden, and it has been Awakened Baden for me for a while because he's so good in Cursed Realm. So for the first team here, pretty self-explanatory, right? You use the formation I used, right? Baden. You can mess around with Mortis's armor using Elite armor, which I did because I don't know, like. Excuse me. Mortis doesn't really need gear, right? So if elite armor, they tell you elite armor is better, just use that then, and it is better from my tests. And I've never really put it in, resonating on Mortis's gear after switching it, because it just seems to be better everywhere, right? But you have some different variations, so to speak, right? And you can even pull in the Talene team into this composition, or swapping it with the third team, right? And that might yield you more damage. I haven't tested anything out with swapping, mainly because I don't have the Talene team completely built out. But yeah, here are the variations. If you don't have an Awakened Baden available, you can use Talene, or you can use the normal version of Baden to do some damage, right? Now here's the Belinda composition. Now as you can see here, the best in slot is using Yennefer, but for me Yennefer was so high RNG on getting the Regicide debuff. Like it happened maybe 1 in 7 battles or something, so it's super, for me, for my investments, it was super inconsistent getting Yennefer to tank the Regicide debuff, and that's why I used the alternative composition 2 here, where you use Scarlet, right? Even though that did a lot of damage to my boss round, the final round, because I couldn't use Scarlet and I had to use Rem instead. The gain was actually significant enough to where that was worth it. But interestingly enough, they don't list Lawson as a sub here for Mishka. But for me, the actual best results I had from this team was actually using Lawson instead of Mishka in this specific combination. But yeah, you need to play around with Yennefer, and basically you need to play around with the Blades of Regicide debuff to make sure Belinda doesn't get the debuff. And also, Belinda works at a Legendary in this comp, right? Which is great for free-to-play players. But for if you don't have Belinda, right, you can look into like all 3 with using Rem, or here using Daemon Carry, or even a Soulless team. Daemon Carry, or... Well, it seems like pretty much Daemon, and then there's always the option, if you don't have any heroes, of using Ainz, right? Ainz team can usually do like 1 billion damage to most formations, which is better than nothing if you don't have the best in slot formations. Now here, this is the Talene team, the team that I'm currently building out. I really want to build out Orthos, but with the release of the new Celestial hero, I should probably focus on her instead, because she seems very strong. But this is the formation I used, right? Even with my not so good Talene with an Tandra instead of Orthos, this was able to do 2 billion damage. And if you don't have either, you can look at some Kren formations, which is a bit hard to do because Kren is needed in round 1. And then ultimately you can fall back on Ainz if you can't really build any of this, which is actually what I used to do before I had Talene in this round. I just used Ainz and did around 1 billion damage. Right, for this formation, try swapping the heroes around a bit. What hit the highest for me, but was pretty high RNG, was actually the best in slot formation here with the Phantasmal Pet. This was my best hit. However, there is merit in using Mishka instead of Saurus. But yeah, you can, and obviously the best possible one would probably be using Joan instead of Kassad, but you need Joan in the next teams, so that's not really an option. But yeah, just use this comp, and obviously if you don't have Awakened Soulless, you can use this comp, which uses Mishka instead of Soulless. Right. For this comp, this is where I did my improvements, right? Because with the release of this team, I looked at it and I was like, wait, I can build this team if I just pull Vithiel in here. So I did that, and it actually, I can confirm, works with Brutus, as you saw on my team that was able to do like 2-point-something billion damage with the Legendary Brutus and the Seal Pet at like, I believe my Seal Pet's level 10. So not even a super huge Seal Pet, but still a decent Seal Pet. But this team has a lot of variations. Usually in this team I run some sort of Lucretia combination that doesn't use Brutus, and it's usually, yeah, like down here, alt 11, I believe I've used before, right? But with being able to use Legendary Brutus, this comp just becomes the most relevant comp even for free-to-play players who don't have Brutus, because I believe having a legendary copy of Brutus is super important as a free-to-play player. At least it has served me well many times over the... Well, now it's been like, what, a year since Brutus released, and I've used him a lot at Legendary. And here we have it, right, with the Rem Scarlet situation, and also with the new Celestial Heroes situation. The Celestial Heroes, like, I mean, it's pretty much built to take the Regicide debuff if it's built out well enough, and that allows Rem to pop off. And it's super significant that Rem doesn't get the debuff, because she does all her damage in like such a small tiny window after the 10 seconds. So if she gets the debuff, the comp completely falls together and cannot work. But as you can see here, this is where I usually used Scarlet, but I believe this guide also talks about swapping Scarlet into the Belinda formation if you can use a big Rem. And even a smaller Rem like mine worked out better, allowing Scarlet or allowing Belinda to hit harder with Scarlet taking the debuff. But that's pretty much it for the guide, right? It's pretty exciting Cursed Realm times, because there's a lot of changes going on with Cursed Realm formations. Like obviously Baden is super stable, Belinda is super stable, but now you can use Scarlet in here because Rem is now, you know, the GOAT for the Cursed Realm anyways, and she just can fit into Scarlet's comp and take her supports and do even more damage than she could, which is pretty hard to imagine because Scarlet was like such an S tier boss hero. So the fact that Rem can take her spot is completely crazy to me. And also I believe this round is like, it's fairly free to play friendly actually, because looking at the Awakened heroes used, right? Baden you should merc. Belinda works at Legendary, which is super nice, right? This team doesn't use Awakened heroes. However, I would argue it's pretty much more expensive with these two Celestial heroes, who not a lot of people have built, but you can obviously use Irons instead. But there's no Awakened heroes inside here. This one uses Awakened Soulless, which is like, I feel like that's one of the heroes you should have built. She's definitely a top tier Awakened hero in my opinion, right? I would put her behind Belinda, maybe as like the second best, but it's really close behind Belinda. And even if you don't have her, there are Awakened-less formations. And well, actually for this formation I could believe that Soulless wouldn't work at Legendary. Usually she does because of her SP effect being so strong, but this fight is just so tough, so you probably need an invested Soulless. And then for this team, sure, it uses a Awakened hero, but he works at Legendary, right? And then for the last team, you don't use an Awakened hero. So all in all, you're using one Awakened hero that works at Legendary, then one, and then another Awakened hero that works at Legendary. So you need two fully built Awakened heroes, of which one you can merc, and then two at Legendary. So this is super exciting for me, right? I really am falling in love with Rem. FBI don't come at me. I mean in game, right? Because she replaces such strong heroes, and even replaces Awakened heroes. So definitely looking to build out Rem more for my account. Also, like, her ult is super cool. But that's about it for the guide, right? Thank you guys for voting on the community poll I did. I was super unsure of how that feature even works, or if you guys would even see it, but some of you found it and voted that you wanted to see my Cursed Realm formations, so I'm happy to oblige, right? And I'll be doing these weekly, hopefully in better time next time. But I really wanted to get the Cursed Friends Discord guide into my video, because it has so many different variations and just makes a more holistic picture of Cursed Realm activities. Anyways, I'm going back to playing Diablo 4. I hope you guys can improve your score in the Cursed Realm. Take care.